Yes, I'm
One,
here.
one, two, three.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Think Tank, where each day we share the news in open dialogue and discuss how it might affect the business world. We speak with different leaders on crisis navigation and management, as well as experts in the profession, personal and professional self betterment. It's meant to be a break and some learning and sharing of good news and ideas to start people moving forward. It's called Think Tank. Today, we are also live on YouTube with 2 viewers already. Very good. Thanks for joining. Do comment and let us know where you're coming from. I didn't know French Sam was on yesterday, and he sent me a bunch of stuff after. That's kind of fun. And he was going to tell some other people. So at least check in and say who you are, where you're from. That's fun to know. Uh, do we need to do an introduction or just get on with it? No. Everyone knows everyone. So let's jump right into. Well, let me give some heads up. Tomorrow we do have Christine joining us again, a little deeper into COVID to hear how she's been navigating with her different properties and all of her different employees, and maybe taking it heed to some of the things we've discussed here and see if that worked or if it's just talk. That'll be interesting to see. And then actually next Tuesday we have David Duncan on, and he is from the leadership. Oh, darn it, Worth Following group. So they help ascertain who's got great leadership qualities within your company and coaches people up. Interestingly enough, they're not doing a lot of that right now. They're more focused on how to develop leaders that are now virtual. So he's going to do a quick cliff note, if you will, 10-step. Here's how you can embrace and provide empathy and leadership virtually and really motivate your employees and people that you work with. So that should be interesting. That's next Tuesday. That is what we have for now, and we will jump to the news. And Kimball got his check.
Actually, yes, I got the disaster loan, $1,000. One employee, $1,000. So I had thought that I'd never see that, but it
Yeah,
just
that was
appeared.
Somalian
Yeah,
pirates taking everyone's bank account.
yeah, well, they sent me $1,000. So,
So
and
was that a
then
check or was that a wire?
no, it was a direct deposit right into my
Okay.
account, and it referenced SBA, maybe EIDL, and it had the number. Remember how we were given confirmation numbers? It had that confirmation number. So seems legit. And by the way, and Lauren got her stimulus payment. So little by little, pieces are falling in.
Well, it helps that your last name starts with an A, though, right? Isn't that cheating?
Yes. Is that it?
Who knows? I want to think it's a little more sophisticated than that, but who knows?
Yeah.
Hey, do you think China is shaking in their boots now that Missouri has officially begun paperwork to
sue them?
To sue?
What was that for?
China's having to look on a map going, now what's that? The show me state. What's that?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, there's just a move afoot, because they covered up the spread of the virus at the beginning. That's there's encouragement to literally sue the government. It sounds like an exercise in futility to me, but that's how it started.
The one thing we know is that no matter what happens, lawyers will continue to get rich.
Yes, someone will make some money on that deal.
Yeah, we need to. I thought maybe we'd reach out to Bill and see if he wanted to jump on tomorrow. See how rich he's getting.
Yeah, we should ask Bill.
You can see if he can. And I guess the WHO now officially has come out and said that the virus did in fact come from bats.
Really?
Did you see that, Doug?
I did not. That's news.
No, I didn't.
Came from where?
It says the WHO says coronavirus originated in bats, but denies that it was manipulated or constructed in a lab.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody thinks it was constructed, but I do think that it escaped from that lab. That's what I think.
Let's talk some Michael Jordan Last Dance.
Yeah.
So who's watched that? I've really recorded it very well, and I cannot wait to see it. But what do you think? Is it real? Is it true to person?
You know, what I
Michael
like
Jordan
about,
documentary?
yeah, the MJ doc. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Go
go ahead, Robbie.
Well, no, I just found it was incredible when you think about the athletes back then and you compare them to athletes now and the compensation that they get, and the fact that I might have known that about Scottie Pippen back in the day, but that he played on a 7-year contract for $18 million, signed that contract, and even, you know, Krause even said, and the owner, I wouldn't sign this, but I guess he was so hell-bent and determined that he wanted to take care of his family and wanted the money that he played. And they wouldn't, can you imagine an athlete now, even 2 or 3 years into a contract, they would just sit out and not play.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what Zeke did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's just back then, I could totally see how I'm surprised that he didn't start acting out earlier on. And then what was he the last year that he was
122nd, 122nd on the pay list.
Yeah, yet number 2 in scoring. This is on the Bulls. Number 2 in scoring, number 2 in number 1 in assists, and just crazy. Oh, and he was the 6th highest paid player on the Bulls.
Yeah. 6th.
Yeah.
6th. That's what's crazy. So to me, it's just amazing.
A couple of takeaways. Early on, I thought this was an interesting point they mentioned. There have really only been a couple of iconic names to a sport, like Babe Ruth to baseball, and who was the other one? Does anybody remember who the other one was?
Jackie Robinson?
No, it wasn't Jackie Robinson. It was that one to baseball.
It's football.
Wayne Gretzky to hockey or something?
Yeah, and then Michael Jordan to basketball. I mean, they were already separating him from the Oscar Robertsons and the Wilt Chamberlains. They were already identifying him as iconic to the game. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
I thought that one of the most fun things was Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
His statement when, you know, he saw Michael Jordan for the first time, and it was before Michael had ever played one game in the NBA. And Bobby Knight turned to somebody and said, "This is the best basketball player that has ever lived." Period. End of sentence. No preamble. And he hadn't even played one game yet.
Yeah.
You guys heard the story of how this thing even happened. You heard the ticket was talking the other day, I guess. And I don't know whether he worked for the Bulls or he worked for the NBA, but Silver, who is obviously the commissioner now, I guess it was his idea to go to, and anybody stop me if I'm getting the story wrong, go to the Bulls and ask for their permission on that final season, because everybody had, you know, they'd already said that this is Michael's last year, the last stand, if you will. And they went to the Bulls organization and got approval from the owner, and then ultimately had to get approval from Michael Jordan. And so much of the footage that is in this movie has never been seen before, because it's literally been in a vault. And Michael Jordan he's the one that was given the authority to determine when the footage was to be released and when it could be actually utilized to create the movie, which is just crazy. And who had that the foresight? It was Silver, I guess. But wow, how cool is that? I mean, and then Jordan ultimately said, yes, do it. And I guess it was supposed to be released in July, was what the ticket was talking about.
And Scott and Robbie, you probably were interested in the family dynamics of the competition with the brother, and, you know, growing up, and the dad, and the whole relationship. That was fantastic.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's crazy. But you know, the way that, and that was interesting too about Scottie Pippen. What did he have? 12? Was it 11 or 10 or 12 brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
He had 11. I think there were 12 kids, and he had 11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and his dad had a heart attack and was
stroke. He had a stroke.
Yeah, and then his brother, so he had 2 wheelchairs in that house.
Yeah.
One of his brothers was
now. How?
Well, and then that was probably a big reason that he signed the contract he signed, because he wanted security over whether he would get injured and not get paid.
Well, and Scottie was, the thing about Scottie that everybody knew too is in his younger days, he was not the most savvy, mature business person that was running around, whereas Michael and some of the other folks seemed to have a preternatural ability to understand what's going on.
Yeah, they were brands.
Yeah, Scottie wasn't that guy, right?
No.
And so, whether you want to say they took advantage of him or he just said, like we were just chatting, I don't care. I just want to get the security at this point. There's arguments for both sides. And the other thing to remember is that what he was watching, and to a certain degree coattailed, was what Michael was doing with Nike, and what Michael literally would come out and say, my salary in the NBA is nothing. I am here to build my brand.
Yeah.
Right. And the money I make in the NBA is interesting, but comparatively irrelevant. And Scottie finally figured that out and got some pretty good endorsement deals, both locally and nationally. But, he was not the forward thinking business person that several of the other folks were.
Go ahead, Kimball.
One of the most incredulous things to me was when Reinsdorf comes in at the beginning of that season and tells Coach Jackson, okay, this is your last season. You could go 82-0. It's still your last season. I mean, how does that happen?
Oh, it's real easy.
Okay.
I mean, this is not, they're making a big deal out of it. It was really easy. Michael and Phil were enormous superstars in the city of Chicago. Yeah. And Reinsdorf was considered an absolute buffoon.
Right.
I mean, they looked at him like he was, he had an IQ of about 9. And Krause was, as accurately portrayed in this, the villain. And so what you had, this wasn't about money or championships. This was about one thing and one thing only, and that was ego. And Reinsdorf and Krause wanted them out of town as fast as they could get.
The Jerry and Jimmy Johnson syndrome.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
It is exactly that thing, right? And
yeah, you can go 82-0, or you can go win the Super Bowl, but you're not coming back next year.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Well, and Krause came out time and time again and said, I'm the one that built this. I can build it again without you. And he was desperate to get rid of, particularly Phil, who he didn't.
You're right, though, man. That's crazy, the comparisons when you think about it, Doug, to using Kimball's suggestion there. That's what Jerry said of Jimmy, right?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what the Bulls did after those guys got broke up.
Yeah, the only difference is that Jerry's not an idiot, and Reinsdorf is an idiot.
Where did he make his money from?
Doug, this is a public show, so
there may be folks
from Illinois. This is public knowledge in Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah, you're from Chicago, right, Doug? Or you lived there for a while?
Well, my brother lives there. I live just a little south of Chicago. Okay. But I had a good friend of mine who was a sports information director for the Bulls during these years. Oh. We had a suite in original Chicago Stadium, and then in the United Stadium, with my company. I was there I had 2 offices in Chicago. I was there all the time. And, and like I said, my brother lived there. And we all lived. I mean, my son and I lived for the Bulls, Yeah.
That's interesting. Did y'all hear that? We might have talked about this the other day. We were talking about Tiger Woods and the I don't know if it was a documentary, but it was whatever was on Sunday. And they were talking about Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan saying that the only sports idol he ever had was Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Y'all hear that? That's crazy. But obviously Tiger Woods, same thing with him. He never cared about the paycheck he was making from the tournaments that he was winning. It was all about the endorsements that he was doing.
I thought it was waitresses.
Well, that too. I mean, that's
different kind of compensation.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, it's a good documentary, and I'm sure it'll be interesting.
I'm excited about Dennis Rodman next Sunday. Sunday or the next.
It'll be interesting.
Oh, so they highlight a different person on every episode? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of jump around through the timeline and through the personalities, so you really never know where you're going.
Well, and Rodman is probably the single most fascinating personality of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you, Doug. He's the guy that totally agree. When all that was going on,
watch the 30 for 30 on him. That's
it's
one.
incredible.
That's a good one. That's a good one for sure. Yeah, he's a wackadoo. Some of the excerpts you hear that when Rodman went to Krause and said, "I need a vacation." Did you hear this? And then they went to Michael, and Rodman tells Michael he needs a vacation, and Jordan's like, F that. If anybody needs a vacation, I need a vacation. And they're like, well, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go, Dennis? I need to go to Vegas. Just so crazy in the middle of a season. He's just got to take some time off to go, blow off some steam in Vegas with his friends. And they're like, hey, can you just take 48 hours? He's like, well, I need longer than 48 hours. So just crazy. Alberto, you don't have any Jordan stories or Pippen, any Bulls?
I mean, I was interested. We were covering Derrick Rose back when he was a big deal, Chicago. So Wasn't
he hurt the whole time he was there?
No, not at the beginning. At the beginning, he was okay. Then he started getting hurt. But I was at the stadium when they introduced Scottie Pippen's statue or bust or whatever. So I was there for that, and I met Jordan at a club in Miami with A-Rod. Right when A-Rod signed with Rangers, and we were there on a photo shoot, and we got invited to some party at a club in Miami. So we from the modeling agency. Anyways, Jordan was there, and I got to meet him and A-Rod and a bunch of other guys smoking cigars. So that was kind of cool. But
that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Scottie around in Chicago and just in the All-Star games and stuff like that. But that's it.
Alberto, you watching the documentary?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's great. It's really interesting. Historically, I always find that fascinating, especially the background stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really.
Based on yesterday's discussion, I mean, that's what all these sports leagues need to be doing is spitting out content like this to remember how much you love us. Because that's going to be a real mess, whenever that all comes back.
Yeah, but ESPN got lucky on this deal, I would think, because it was already in the pipeline. So, I mean, I'm sure they had to fast track the post-production or whatever they had to do to get it squared away. But, I mean, they got lucky on that. But I agree, man. I love a great, documentary, but you're right with all of the backstory that you had no idea of.
But it's hard to come up with something that's going to be as compelling as the Jordan story.
Michael got $6 million for this, and he donated all.
Yeah,
he's not taking any proceeds.
So we looked last night or 2 nights ago. So his net worth, and you know how some of this stuff is skewed. It says his net worth is 2-point-something billion. If you factor in his
Nike,
I guess, yeah, exactly. If you factor in his ownership of Nike or whatever he has with Nike. But what's funny, if y'all noticed in that documentary, all those dudes that they're going back and interviewing ex-coaches and competitors, they all have their whatever team they're playing on, but they all have the Jordan logo on it. I just think that's so funny. Everybody's sporting just like Doug has his sponsorship with Jordan.
Yep.
I was just eating lunch and I watched one of the live feeds and I saw Pence is at GE, which is interesting, but he had, I don't know if anyone saw this. He's got all of his security, like they're all walking around, but it looks like he might as well be in a park somewhere. They're like waiting for people to come jumping out of wherever. I don't know. I've never seen them so in tune, but none of them have masks on. Or Pence, and I would have thought, and then the head of GE comes out, and I would have thought, like, here is your time to say America, and I'm supporting America, and I'm doing it with my products, and here's my product. None of them had masks on.
Well, they've all been tested.
Yeah.
Hey, did y'all hear that the governor of Maryland? Yeah, I'm sure most of you heard this. So they've been negotiating. The governor of Maryland, his wife is from Korea. Doug, did you hear this? His wife is.
I read something about it this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the last 2 weeks, they've been negotiating with the Korean government to secure 500,000 test kits, and they secured them. And they arrived yesterday, I think, Scott, on 2 Korean 747 cargo planes, and the governor and his wife were there on the tarmac to accept. I'm just thinking, dude, what, really? We have to go. How is that just not something that we can make happen here in the United States? I mean, I guess they just, and how did they already have them ready and put together if none of us really knew about the coronavirus? If nobody knew what was going on, or is that test kit, can you use it, or was it developed for something else?
No, they developed it for this, but Seoul, unlike any other country, has been 1,000% dialed in and 1,000% teamwork from municipalities on up to, head government. And they're
so close to the genesis of it.
Yeah. And the tech and stuff they're doing within and around that, scanning QR codes when you're walking in, and so all that stuff we're looking at for the importing thing. Yeah, it starts there. The trick is they got to make that test so that it's more like a pregnancy test thing that you can get results at home as opposed to having to send it off. I was looking at that last night. I found a site for $130. They do a quick consultation on the phone, and then they send you a kit, and you have to do your swab, and then it comes with a FedEx box, and then you got to send it back to a lab because they're doing genetics tests on it to really test for it. So
Alberto, that's what you use to get tested for marijuana, right? You have to send that off, and no.
I got them growing back over here.
So this just in, Dallas County Commissioners have extended the April 30th stay-at-home to May 15th. That was a 3-2 vote today, apparently. Haven't heard that one.
Gracie will be upset, so she does not get to do 3rd grade in school ever again.
Mm-mm.
Well, that had to have already been determined. Richardson determined that a while back.
Yeah, schools were already shut down, but this is the stay-at-home thing that April 30th.
Well, how are we supposed to get back to business? I thought we were doing a slow release.
That's counteractive to the back to business thing. So there must be more coming on that.
Yeah, and the sad part is you use the word commissioners in our Dallas.
Oh, we know who that is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
John Wiley.
Yeah, John Wiley.
I mean, he's just listen.
But how does that work? The governor says we're able to do it, but then
Dallas can override it? Maybe
they can. Yeah. Is that right? Or Dallas overrides state?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what? So what?
State overrides national,
unless it's a declared emergency. Yeah.
Yeah, but at what point do you go back to the phases that were brought up from a federal standpoint last week, where if you reach the benchmarks, if you reach 2 weeks of steady decline or whatever it is, you certain components of the economy get to open up. I mean, at what point does
federal guidelines constitutionally are nothing more than guidelines?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe they're extending it so they can release it back if something, things do steadily decline.
Well, but here's what the worry is. Okay, there was a study done in Los Angeles that was released late last night that says that based on this, and the science is, even the people who did it said they're not sure, but the study they said looks like that they have underreported the number of cases in LA by 55%, and that in fact there's 445,000 estimated cases of COVID-19 in just LA. Mm-hmm. And what they're seeing is homeless shelters have got up to a 60% infection rate. Lower income neighborhoods have got 40 to 60%. And we are massively, because we don't have enough testing, goes back to that. We just don't know how this is. And it's real. That's one interesting piece, for everybody on this. I was on about 4 calls yesterday that you guys might be interested in. I've got a bunch of clients who are now actively scheduling events over the next year, because basically what they've said is, I've got to give people hope. I'm going to go schedule my event. I'm going to set it on date X, and that's what I'm setting it for. I know it may not stick, but I'm going to set it. I'm going to start my machines in, from marketing and the attendee parts all up and running. And it's really was interesting for me to see some of these folks that are starting to just go, I've got to start to plan something, even if I don't know what's going to happen to it. I got to plan it again, even if I have to cancel it again.
A real interesting article on a event manager blog. He's kind of become the de facto blogger, news sharer for the event space. And he's talking about the things you have to think about, or that we all have to think about going back and doing their events. And, besides how are you going to do it and how are you going to test everyone, or what does that look like? And are those tests really accurate, and so on and so forth? It's the legal side.
Right.
That's crazy. So I went to that event and darn it, I got COVID or what have you.
Right.
And I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, I mean, we're a litigious society.
I mean, isn't that a release form of some kind? I mean,
won't stick.
So, and then Robbie, we were supposed to be doing a show probably about right now.
Yeah, it was, I think, this week.
Yeah, in the Dominican, and it was canceled, and then we were just told yesterday or the day before, hey, it's back on for next year. Are you guys good to go? And are you ready to sign the confirmation or whatever? And that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of they're tough, turbulent times. It's not like, hey, it just got postponed and it's business as normal. Who knows what normal is going to be? And I don't know if we can.
Yeah, but to Doug's point, I mean, as I said to Sam yesterday, and we were talking about this, it's just, I think it was a good nature, it got canceled, and then the Malaya Resort in the Dominican just said, hey, can we go ahead and rebook this next year for you? And, the organization just said, sure.
Kimball, I think you have a phone coming out of your ear.
I do. I'm monitoring. Governor Abbott is talking right now.
Okay.
I'm trying to monitor.
I can actually see Governor Abbott on your phone.
See him.
Yeah. He's talking about what those people are talking about in Dallas are cray cray, even though he went to school here. I think I told y'all I went to high school with him.
No.
Yeah, I went to high school with Governor Abbott. Graduated the same year I did. So
whatever it is, Kimball can't even believe it. He's having to look at it right now.
Hey, Scott, have you been running the lake?
I did. In fact, Jordan and I ran it last night. It was gorgeous. And I was actually surprised at how packed it was.
I was going to say,
like
I wouldn't have been.
The whole city was walking around the lake last night.
And were they wearing masks or not?
Some were, most weren't.
Were you?
Not running.
I know. Well, they're suggesting you should. I just don't know how you can.
No, I can't. I mean, we saw some people. I would call them fast walkers or joggers. They weren't really runners. Had some masks on, but most of the people that had the masks on were just walking.
Sammy, back to the event concept. You and I have a June project that we still are waiting for cancellation from Carla, right? I did email her and got a little whiff of something. They're basically, Switzerland is saying, don't come in. If Switzerland says don't come, then how do they come in June? So that's interesting. So apparently there's still a barrier to entry in some of these European countries.
And I heard that Trump today said no one can come in from out of the country.
Yeah, he signed an executive order that said immigration is now banned.
Yeah.
And so what happens if you leave? Can you come back in?
No, that's U.S. I mean, you're returning. Immigration, I think, is referring to foreigners. Yeah, but you could return to the U.S. probably with some kind of quarantine stipulation.
Well, he did it too. His executive order was aimed not at the coronavirus, but in his words, preserving American jobs and not allowing immigrants to come in and take jobs when this many Americans are unemployed.
Yeah.
So this order is, while it's obviously all around the coronavirus, it was aimed at employment and public relations more than it was, the spread of the virus.
Yeah.
All right. Any other news we need to talk about? My quarter's about to run out on my water up here.
Yeah, that's a nice fountain you have back there.
Thank you.
That's quite a
I have had some free time, so I was working on that.
Yeah.
You got yourself a pretty high-powered pump pumping all that water through there, don't you?
Is that the Io Needle in Maui?
Mm-hmm. It's Killarney.
Oh, it's Ireland.
Yeah.
Cool.
I thought it was El Yunque.
That's a good spot too.
All right.
That's
it. That's it. So tomorrow we will have Christine on. That'll be interesting to see how she's faring with her people and her company and get her perspective. So hopefully everyone can join tomorrow at 2:00. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned in tomorrow.